and that is that being, existence, what you think is there, is something which is present. It seems intuitive. It seems so intuitive you never notice it. No one ever thinks, well, something is which isn't there. Something is something which doesn't exist. And Derrida says, well, to assume that is still an assumption. And it's not something also, it's something which he tries to challenge Derrida's philosophy. So he gives these examples of ideas which are being as presence, essence, existence, substance, subject's that thing which is present, transcendentiality, the structure of reality we see around us, all these philosophical concepts which philosophers all before him, Descartes, Kant, Hegel, Schopenhauer, all these guys have kind of used to build this system, which all rely on this idea that being or existence depends on just something being there. So, with that, a few nods. I'm going to give an example of this. It's a very famous one. It's an easy one to help me understand, which may clarify what was just said. There's René Descartes who famously says, I think therefore I am, in his second meditation, in his series of meditations. He's quite a stern-looking fellow. So he's got this very clever idea that he wants to deny everything about knowledge which he can think of, and therefore he denies everything which he could possibly think, or got reason to think was wrong. He can get some sort of concrete base where he can build knowledge from. If he can deny everything which is possible to deny, even that he is awake, even that he's seeing things, anything like that, he will eventually come to something which he can't possibly deny. The first experience he uses for this, it's a very effective one. First he believes that he's dreaming. He says, well, let's imagine that I'm dreaming. What can I deny then? I can deny that, if I can believe that I'm dreaming, I can deny that you're all here. I can deny that I'm in Housmans. I could be asleep so in my room. And that's not quite good enough for Descartes. He thinks he can go further. So he goes on to believe that, well, maybe, and it's just a thought experiment, there's an all-powerful malicious demon existing in the world, and I don't know if he exists or not, but he probably exists, and he's trying to confuse me and fool me in every way possible. And he's successful because he's all-powerful. So what does this exclude? It also excludes things along the lines of 2 plus 2 is 5, and any sort of mathematical or reasoning like that, because if you think 2 plus 2 is 5, or all men are bachelors, then it demands a certain level of reasoning where when you come to the conclusion you can forget the start. Now he believes that 2 plus 2 is 5, he definitely believes it, but he doesn't believe that he is infallibly right in believing that. So even though he's right to believe it, he doesn't know that he's infallible in believing so. Yeah, 2 plus 2 might not equal 4, it might equal 5, excuse me on that one. If there's a demon which is having a go at him, or if you think of, say, a syllogism. So, as I say, with all men are bachelors, if you think that, let's just leave it, let's take a look at the argument instead. I'll try and show you how it works. Let the all-powerful malicious demon deceive me as much as he may. He will never bring it about that, the time of thinking, the time of something, I am in fact nothing. Thus I must conclude this proposition, I am, I exist, whenever I utter it or conceive it in my mind is necessarily true. Now, how this argument works is, notice it excludes the therefore when you actually read it. And that's what people don't really understand about this argument. They think, I think therefore I am. The therefore doesn't come into it with René Descartes. It's not a syllogism. It's not a series of reasoning, because he could be wrong about the reasoning. He's just present to himself, and therefore he exists. I am, I exist. And whenever he utters it or conceives it in his mind, what he means by that is he doesn't even need to think this argument, he doesn't need to think this thing about the malicious demon to know that he exists. He could just be walking down the street. As long as there's thought, he exists. He doesn't need to have all of this in his head. He doesn't need to have all these arguments which he could be wrong about to know that he exists. Just that he knows when he's thinking, he's existing. So being of him existing is presence. He's there to himself. Are you still with me on this one? Yeah, and that's kind of where phenomenology is coming from, that there's a subject, which is Derrida, the I, myself, who can know things about the world. What René Descartes starts off with, he knows himself and he knows he exists. But he doesn't know himself, but he knows himself all in his body, which comes later. Ignore that. So we'll move on to Edmund Husserl, because Derrida's first book, Speech and Phenomena, is I won't say a criticism, it's a deconstruction, which is the famous word associated with Derrida, of Edmund Husserl and his transcendental phenomenology. Now, Edmund Husserl has got a very Cartesian idea of the subject and of philosophy. And so Derrida is starting off his career. He's just published Speech and Phenomena, with deriving his philosophy from this analysis, just this reading of phenomenology, and shows its limitations. I don't like to say it's critiquing it, because I'll probably explain that later about deconstruction. Deconstruction is not a tool which you apply to something. It's not. This is why he struggles to define it. This is why Derrida never actually defines it clearly. The only way you can understand how it works is to actually read him and to see how he does it, to read other deconstructionists. Because it's not something which you can define and say, yes, here's the tool and you apply it to this. So here's, a tool would be something like a psychoanalytic reading. So here's Freud's books, go and apply it to this book. Here's Marxist reading, read the Communist Manifesto, Das Kapital, and then go read these other books. He's not coming from like this. Deconstruction, he says, is already in the work. So it's not something you can really define separate from the text, and we'll come to why that is later. But the argument he has with Husserl, the big spat that he has with him in terms of this reading he has of him, is that, I think it's an easy way to explain it, does anyone speak a second language? For those of you who don't speak a second language like myself, have you ever wondered what people think like in a different language? Do they kind of think like you, or do they think in the other language? Or have you ever wondered, is thought speech? Or is thought, you ever wondered that? Or is thought just thought, and then you add speech onto it later? Is that something that's ever concerned you on the train at any point? Well, it's the kind of debate he has with Husserl here. Husserl has got this idea that thought is just thought, and that when you think to yourself, you can think to yourself in words if you like, but there's no point to it. Derrida, this is the concept that Derrida disagrees with. For Derrida, all thought must be speech. And this is the quote which he quotes Husserl on. This is Husserl's argument. In inward speech, words